We're now live. Okay, so welcome everybody. Or How do you guys all pronounce Kaor? Kaor?
Kaor.
Kaor.
Or Kaor. Whatever.
Arsumian, hello. All right.
Cool.
So it is February 10th, 2018, and we are here to finish up our part 2 of our playtests, of the beta playtest for Modiphius' upcoming John Carter of Mars RPG. I'm Vixter. I am your GM. I come from a D&D background. And the playtest we're playing is called Mind Merchants of Mars. I want to give a shout out to Chris Birch and the Modiphius team who are just finishing off the Kickstarter. Last day is tomorrow, so if you haven't pledged, pledge now. And we want to thank them for bringing Barsoom back to life for us. I also want to do a shout out to our fellow member of our Facebook group, Keith Johnson, for the Momentum Threat and Luck tokens. Those you'll see on the right hand side of your play screen, guys. So Keith got us some really nice looking ones, and I appreciate him sharing them. He's going to be doing a Fantasy Grounds campaign in the future, so keep your eyes out for that. Lastly, I want to thank all of you for coming and playing today. So we'll just, if you guys see each other on the screen there, we'll just have you guys do a quick introduction to yourself and a quick 1 or 2 lines about your character. Obviously you guys have just met in the slave pit. You don't really know each other. Some of you may not want the others to know much about where you're at or where you're going or what your intentions are. So again, share as much as you feel like doing. And we'll start with, I have Pimaila as the first one on my screen, then Tanza, Chad, Zax. Should we call you Zax? How do you want to pronounce that?
Yeah, that's how I was going to pronounce it.
Zax? And
Zax, yeah.
Osis. Go ahead, Pimaila.
So, I don't know how that's just starting. Okay, so I'm introducing my character.
You're the hot, sexy one in the group.
Yeah, I'm the hot, sexy one in the group. Got stranded when trying to do an trade I'm a trade diplomat, so I was trying to do something, but I got caught by the slavers. That's about it.
Okay, Tanza?
Well, boy, big imagination here, so I'll try and be brief. I do a lot of world building in my head. Basically, I am sort of like the nerd, the reverse nerd. I was a lesser daughter of a lesser Jed in Helium. Pretty standard backstory, but the thing for me is that I'm a nerd, so I was fascinated by stories of the stars, and I want to travel to other planets, and so meeting an alien, aka John Carter, when he became the warlord of the nation, for me was just like, OMG, it's like learning that Spock became your president. And so I actually learned English, pretty good at it. I have basically a middle school level English. I learned it from Sola, and was actually childhood playmates when I was a little child when Thoris was hatched. So I became his playmate, and I kind of wanted to get with him, but it was too late. He was already with Thuvia by the time he became a man. I was just like a sister to him. So I'm kind of disappointed. So I'm kind of obsessed with Jassomians and aliens and stuff like that, and I want adventure in the wide world somewhere. So yeah, tried to keep it brief.
No, that's good. Chad.
My name is Chad Lista, and I am on a mission to find a scientist. That I come from Kadabra.
Best name
and
ever.
This scientist is unique that he does electromagnetic technology, and he's the top scientist. My king has sent me on a mission, so I'm trying to find him. That's mainly, and I'm good at different activities, so we'll have to see where that goes. I don't want to necessarily tell everybody because somebody working in for the opposite side. So I'm very suspicious of people, but that's about it. Thank you.
All right, Zach.
Yeah, I'm Zax. You could also call me Captain or Dator. I'm an airship officer, one of the firstborn Martians, and really got to get out of here, and really need to find a ship to get back on with things.
Right on. And last but not least, had Osis.
Had Osis here, a soldier of fortune, otherwise known as the Pantan from the city of Dua, sword fighter. That's about it, really.
All right, so we're going to be doing the 2D20 system for John Carter of Mars, and this is the same system they use for Star Trek Adventures and for Conan. This is kind of what they call the light version, and we're going to be using the Quickstart rules. And basically, everything begins with your attributes. And again, I've got attributes and everything kind of listed in your journal handouts, but I'm just going to show you guys. There we go. There's your attributes. If you need to go looking at them, we have cunning, daring, empathy, might, passion, and reason. And everything that you do task-wise, from combat to climbing a cliff to breaking in and into a library to research something, you're all going to be using a variation of at least 2 of these attributes in any kind of what we call attribute tests. And that's where we get into rolling the dice. Okay, so that's there for you guys to look at in more detail on your own time if you'd like. Attribute tests, again, they use 2 attributes for each test. So when you're actually going to roll to see how you succeed or not, you have to roll minimum of 2 d20s up to a maximum of 5 d20s. And you also need to use your attribute values to set a target number. That number you have to meet or get less than in order to get a success. So it's opposite of D&D, where rolling high in D&D is good. Well, in this case, rolling high is very bad. If you roll a 20, then that's almost like a critical failure in the sense that when you roll a 20, you get what's called a complication. This is one thing that we didn't do last time that we're going to now do this time. So complication means that I, as the GM, get to throw some kind of bad shit your way because you rolled a 20. Or I can take 2 threats. Now, we're going to talk about threat and momentum in a second. Rolling a 1 is like a critical success. You get an automatic 2 successes when you roll a 1. So that's our critical failure, critical success type issues. Whenever you do a task, like say you're trying to jump from the roof of a palace to get to another roof of a palace, let's say Pimaila was trying to do that. So let's say she's trying to do a rooftop jump. She would use, let's see, what would she use? Daring would be 1, hey, Pimaila?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And probably might for the jumping. So I think
Yeah.
Pimaila, if everybody clicks on Pimaila, you'll see her daring 7 and her might is 4, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So then her target number in this example would be 11. So if she does only the basics and rolls 2d20, she would want to hit 11 or lower to gain any successes. As a GM, I'd say, okay, the default difficulty level is 1, so DC of 1. And if she gets at least 1 success off of those 2 dice, so 11 or under, she succeeded it. If she got 2 successes, she's got an extra success. And in this system, that's very important. Extra successes generate what's called momentum. And that is the key narrative tool that this system uses. Momentum is a commodity that you can save up, and you can save it, you can spend it to get a better result. You can spend it to get more damage dice. You can spend it to buy effects. And again, you can save it or you can share it. You can share it with other players. Now, here's the key. This is different than what we were doing last time. We don't have a group momentum pool this time. We have individual personal pools. And you can have as much momentum as your lowest attribute score. Now, I've gone through because I had so much time yesterday while I was blizzarding out. And I've gone through each of yours, and I'm going to tell you guys what your minimum score is so you can keep track of it, okay? So, Pimaila, your might is your worst score at number 4. So you can only have maximum 4 momentum in your pool. Tanza, I think yours is 5, so maximum 5 momentum in your pool. Chad, I have 4.
I have 5 for.
I have 5.
Might have got 5, I think.
It's okay. We'll double check. Pull it up
Okay.
and double check. See, maybe I made a mistake. So Chad, I have 4. Check to see if that's your lowest of all your attributes. Had I have
My
is
lowest,
5.
Right.
And for
Yeah.
Zach's, I've got 3, and yeah, that's all our players. So let's just double check.
On might as 5, but it shows passion as 4.
Yeah, so that is going to be your lowest attribute.
It's passion, right?
It's passion.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the lowest attribute right here. Passion. Okay.
Now, when we're doing attacks, we use cunning for attack, right?
Yeah, and you know what? Let's get to that when we start going over the attack stuff. I just want to deal with momentum. We'll work our way down through it, and then when we actually play, you guys, it will come back to you very fast. One thing about this lowest attribute is, besides that being the maximum momentum you can carry in your personal pool, at the end of your turn, say you generated, let's say Chad was fortunate enough to generate 6 momentum. Can't keep 6, he can only have maximum 4. He can choose to give those 2 extra momentum to another character. He can choose to give it to Tanza, because she's got a momentum pool of 5. Okay? Now, here's another thing that's different from last time. At the end of each round or scene. So a scene would be at the end of, say, the battle scene we did first time. That would be the end of the whole scene. Everybody loses 1 momentum. At the end of each round, so everyone's gone through their turn, and the enemies have gone through their turn. At the end of each round, everybody loses one momentum. So there's a lot of movement of momentum, and we'll go as we get into it. You'll see how that works. And one other thing I want to mention with this lowest attribute score, and then we'll move on, is that there's a feature in this system called luck, and in Conad it's called fortune. It's like super freaking momentum. It is awesome, and you guys each start with a number of luck tokens as your lowest momentum. So I'm going to be setting you up with that pretty quick here. Luck is really important. It's like inspiration in D&D. And you have to spend it before it applies to any roll, if that's what you're going to use it. But it can give you an automatic 1d20 success on the roll, and it gives you 2 successes. So it's like it's the equivalent of rolling a 1, right? It's a super success. Or you can use it to heal damage. You can use it to get a second combat action. So if you've got 2 swords and you want to do a second hit, you can use your luck to buy that second action. You can use it for second wind, and you can also use it to throw it up and modify the story. So again, we've got a luck handout under the journal tab if you want to read up on it more, but luck is very important. It's hard to regain in some ways because you have to do some outstanding role play or something really interesting in order to get it back. Again, it works again like inspiration in D&D.
Yeah, I think in other games they call them bennies or fate points.
Exactly. Fate points.
Yeah.
No, never heard of that.
But so it's just think of it as super momentum. It's luck is, you don't want to squander it, but when you're in a pinch, it's really good to use. So if you're almost dead or unconscious, you use a luck point to heal, right?
Would you describe momentum more as sort of fatigue levels or more your movement ability?
Momentum is way broader than either of those. Momentum, if you're doing say this again, we'll go back to Pimaila jumping across from one roof to another. Instead of just rolling her base 220, she can spend momentum and buy more dice to increase her chances.
I see.
Odds. I think it's in the quick start. It's called bettering your odds or whatever, improving your odds.
No.
If she was in
Yes.
combat, you could use momentum to buy more combat dice to do a harder hit against more damage to your opponent.
Oh, so they're a positive modifier for any type of roll.
Pretty much. Now, when you
Yeah.
guys take a look at your character sheets, you will scroll down and you will see that each character has its own talent list. And this is special to your character and your archetype. So, for example, let's maybe look at Zach's. I'm gonna screw that up all day. I'm sorry. So Zach has no quarter talent. Okay, so he is merciless in battle, striking suddenly and without pause or restraint. So circumstance, when he's in physical combat effect, he can re-roll the result of any one combat die for damage. Well, that's not a good example, but these talents are unique. So this is where, folks, I need you to be on your game and looking for your talent, because honestly, I can't keep 5 people's talents straight.
Of course.
Okay. Where's one that actually has momentum? Okay. For Zax again, he's got airship pilot. When he's crewing or commanding an airship, he gets an extra D20 to roll for any task related to that. So these talents are real big bonuses, but they are unique to your character. And I think had we look at your talents, you have one where you can, like Peerless Swordsman. Your effect is you gain a bonus D20 to attack tests when sword fighting, and whenever you generate at least 2 momentum with a test involving a sword or similar weapon, you gain extra momentum.
I get it. So they're like edges in Savage. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I understand.
So guys, make sure you read your talents, and maybe even keep that window open and to the side, and maybe keep it small so you can read it as you're coming up to your turn in combat. These talents can help you a lot.
Vicky, your microphone's cutting in and out, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, every so often I thought it might be a latency issue, but
Oh man, that sucks.
No, I just thought I'd mention it, that's all. Sometimes I'm missing words here and there.
Okay, thanks.
I mean, it's not terrible.
Yeah, it's not critical. Just every once in a while, I just thought I'd mention it.
No, I'm glad you mentioned it, and I'm going to adjust my my control panel right now, because that kind of sucks, because I'm telling you guys all this stuff, and you may only
Yeah, sometimes.
Any questions?
Sometimes you disappear for 2 seconds or 3 seconds.
Also, what you might find better is you see, as you open up your character sheet, where the details we were just looking at under bio and info, above that is an icon with 2 little squares. If you click that, and then it's easier to switch between the main game sheet and your character sheet, you'll find, if you just click on your browser icon. Some people prefer that, but
okay, I've just adjusted my levels and stuff. Hopefully, I'm not going to break up anymore, but let me know.
Yeah.
I'd hate to have to restart everything, because that would be such a pain in the ass. It's not even funny. Okay, so momentum. Let's just carry on with momentum. It is a complex thing. So momentum's a positive, and it can be used in a lot of different ways. And again, under the journal, we have I have the Quickstart rules on momentum. So if you're getting bored of listening to me and would rather read those, go ahead. I don't mind. I'm not offended. But yeah, there's one that's called momentum spends, and right there.
No.
And it gives you a little bit of information, some examples of how you could possibly spend momentum. And I have to admit, I stole some of this from Conad, because I really like Conad. Conad's super cool. Okay, so that's momentum. Keep that in mind. Read your talents, and we'll work with it as we're going through things. Okay, let's move on. I know this is the boring part of it, and it will be much more clear when we're actually using them. The important thing to remember.
Can I ask a crazy question?
Yeah.
How do the Conan novels, how do they compare to Burroughs? How do, writing
far
style?
more homoerotic.
Okay.
That's a bad thing, is it?
Not necessarily.
Exactly.
Just an observation. I mean,
a little bit more description, please.
No,
sorry.
guys, feel free when we're done. You can chat about it all you like, but we got to power through a lot of stuff.
Yep.
If that's okay. And I don't mean to
try
cut
you
you off,
later.
but we're already past the 1 hour mark and haven't even gotten to any killing. Okay. So let's get to a couple big things I want to just remind you guys about what momentum can do. Momentum, if you're being attacked by a Thark or by a Warhoon and you're defending, you can use momentum, 3 momentum to buy counter strikes, so that once you defended him, you can then attack him. So I'm just bringing these up. These are under the momentum spends. Counter strikes are really interesting and important. There's also something called swift momentum spends, where you spend 2 momentum so that you can have another conflict action. So again, go to the handout, check that out, read it. Those are going to be important when it comes down to combat. And I bring those up because they're really fun, and I can't wait to see you guys use them. We're going to move down. We've talked about luck, and we've also now need to talk about teamwork. If, for example, you guys are climbing a cliff, and let's just say Chad makes it to the top, but Zax is having problems on the rope below him, he can assist. And how you guys can assist each other in any kind of tasks. And if we ever get to that where someone does want to assist anyone, we'll get into the mechanics at that point. But just be aware, yes, you can help each other out, okay? And it will just be case specific. Let's again talk about damage. So when we were setting up the Roll20, we were talking about going ahead and looking at, oh gosh, and I don't have this set up well on my interface. But anyway, clicking on your tokens and bringing up those 3 bubbles, the red, the green, and the blue, and seeing that those are your current stress levels, right? We talked about that already. So stress is really your health, your hit points. And when we do combat, you will see that we will roll dice, and those combat dice will result in how many stress you do to an opponent or an opponent does to you. The big thing about stress is that you can take a certain amount, and you can see that with your token with the amounts. You can take a certain amount, but once one of those stress levels gets to 0, or if you take 5 stress hits in one instance, then you have what we call an affliction. Afflictions are serious wounds that start to deteriorate your performance and could lead to incapacitation and even death. Okay, yep. So when we actually go through combat, you're going to see how these work. But I just want you to be aware. Again, stress equals your health, and there's the 3 kinds of health. One thing I want to note is that if you look at Tanza's icon, you can see I put a bunch of little dots on her. Right, Tanza.
Oh, I thought that was just like because I'm looking at that because I'm looking at my own character. No, I thought that everybody else had 3 dots. They just couldn't see my 3 dots.
No, and I'm going to tell you what. We're going to use these dots. So if you click on your characters, you click on your tokens, and you get the cog icon and you get the button icon. Please click on the button. And when you click on the button, you'll see all these little, skull and heart and the different colored dots. Now, we're going to use colored dots. When you get an affliction, you're going to pick one of the dots and put it up so we all know you have one affliction, and so we should be coming over and helping you, right? So right now, if you look at Tanza, she's got 3, so she's got 3 afflictions. And once you get 3 afflictions start to increase the difficulty for you to do your next action because you're sliced up, right? Okay. If you get 4 afflictions, where's my stuff? Where's my notes on that? I've got this written down. God damn it! Excuse my swearing, but it's my recording, and I can swear if I want. Okay, so this way. Okay, so.
And this is why Canadians are so much more polite than Americans.
There you go. So, once you get 3 afflictions, you get increased difficulty to every task. Okay, or the task related to the affliction. 4 afflictions, you become incapacitated. 5 or more afflictions, you black out and you're unable to act and may eventually die. Okay, so just play around with your dots. If you guys want to put a dot on each of yourselves and play around with taking that dot off, go ahead and just make sure that you can, play around with it, have fun with it, and just get used to it, and that's how we're going to keep track of the afflictions. Look at it, it's a rainbow. Nice. So we're going to see if that works. It's not the best system, but we'll keep track of it. When you do take an affliction, make sure you know whether what kind of affliction it is. Now, we have the 3 kinds of stress: confusion stress, fear stress, injury stress, and we have similar afflictions that match up with each one of those. And so with confusion stress, the affliction is madness. With fear stress, the affliction is what is the affliction with? Trauma, I think. And with injury stress, the affliction is wounds. Okay, so we're just going to use afflictions because it's just easier, and we'll keep track of them and do the best we can. Okay, moving on then to, we've talked about damage, we've talked about afflictions, we've talked about luck, momentum. Threat is the GM version of momentum. So if you see on the screen, I have 6 threat. That's actually going to change when I set you guys all up. But I can use threat like you guys use momentum. So I can use threat to fuck you up. Not that I would, because I'm a mother and I'm a kind, caring human being. Okay. And if things like this, and let's go back now. I'm sorry, step 1 back. Healing. Healing takes place in a number of different ways. Healing takes place with you spending a point of luck to restore 1 pool of stress. So if you've taken all your injury stresses down to 0 and you've got some afflictions, you can use a luck point to restore your whole pool of stress. Another way to heal, you can spend a momentum to gain 1 point of stress back. So it's not as great, but it is helpful. And then we'll have some in-game items like, those healing creams of the Tharks that will take some time to heal, but they will aid in healing too. There's nothing like D&D healing potions for instantaneous healing. That doesn't work unless you use your luck or your momentum, okay? So there's a lot of ways you can use momentum. Again, bringing up, making the odds better for yourself by increasing dice. Making it harder for your enemy. You can use momentum to buy something to obstruct your enemy. So again, take a look at the handout. And you can also use momentum to heal yourself, and you can use momentum to increase damage. And you can use it for a lot of different other things. So
I like it how the Quickstart rules are alphabetical, mostly.
Right. So I think that kind of is our basics for the rules. We're going to move up now to actually playing. And just any questions before we leave the rules section? It's a lot to take in, I know. Okay, so does anyone want to bring up the newcomers on what happened last time? And while you're doing that, do I have a volunteer?
And, I can.
Okay, and then while you're doing that, I'm going to hand out luck, and I'm going to hand out, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Tanza.
So, basically, Pimaila and Chad and I we had been captured by slavers, and we were and we were basically thrown into the fighting pits of some Zodangan ne'er-do-well, basically. And we had several battles. I remember I got sliced up a bit. Camilla got sliced up pretty badly. Chad, I kind of forget how badly you got sliced up. It took us a while to take down one of the guys. We could not kill him for anything. We were strong. We were good. We had our skills about us, but for some reason we just could not take that. We just could not take that sucker down.
I was gonna say our better success is when we concentrate on one opposing fort, like when we grouped together and attacked one person.
So we
had better success, yeah.
So we finally managed to take it down. I got to deliver a very wonderful killing blow that I was very proud of. My husband was looking at me very strangely when I was narrating that. And